Hey, what's up guys, it's your boy Mondo. On today's episode we're working on an 06 300. We're gonna run a little test as to see if a cold air intake actually helps us. I'm trying to hold as much consistency as possible. So the first pull I did, we had a coolant temp of around 194, 196 and the air temp of around 195. Obviously air temp might change a bit as the cold air intake is gonna alter the temperatures, but for the most part, as long as my coolant temp is pretty steady, that's what I'm gonna aim. I want to see how much horsepower we actually gain with just a cold air intake, no tune. So let's check it out. All right, so I just got done with the pool with the stock, and I just did the one with the cold air intake after we installed it. This is an AFE cold air intake, so let's go look at the numbers. Overall, I was actually pretty impressed. Coolant temp was slightly hotter on the stock intake. We would start off at 196, and with the cold air intake, I was at 194. So 2 degrees in coolant temp isn't gonna change horsepower this dramatically. So for the most part, the cold air intake does work. Let's check it out. So coolant temp there was, like I said, 2 degrees hotter when it was stock. With the colder air it was 2 degrees cooler, and air temp was also like an extra 4 degrees. AFR is pretty consistent on both. It was actually slightly leaner with the AFE, which was to be expected. We are sucking more air, but the gains we got is actually pretty impressive. Let's zoom in a little bit. Actually, let's zoom in a little more. Let's ignore fuel. So we'll check it out. Right here, we're at 286 with the AFE, and without it, we're at 275. Foot pounds, where we saw the most gains, we're at 292, and we're at 279. So overall, those are pretty good gains. I'm really impressed for being just a drop-in filter. Not drop-in, but it honestly took me no more than 20 minutes to change it. And it took me that long because we were having a little issue with the boot that goes onto the throttle body. But overall, actually, let's check it out. This is what it looks like. So it's super simple, very easy. It's just 1 bolt, 3 clamps, 2 clamps, my mistake. Well, 3 if you're including the one on the filter. And 3 bolts that go from the filter to the housing or the heat shield, and that's it. So honestly, it took me longer to fit the little coupler that goes on the throttle body onto the intake, because once everything's assembled, it makes it really hard to move it in. But that's probably what took the longest. Overall, without a tune, it's good to drop in. It didn't lean me out there. We didn't pick up any knock, no detonation. So it is a really good intake to just drop in, no tune required or anything, and it's gonna run great. Now, my next step is to optimize the tune for the cold air intake, optimize the engine, optimize everything. Keep in mind, this is a completely stock 300. This is the first mod he does. It's just a cold air intake. So overall, numbers are really solid, and I'm excited to see how much more I can get out of it. So I'm about to flash in my bass tune, and let's check it out. Alright guys, so I'm coming to an end on the tuning. I did get some more horsepower out by leaning it out some. I hit a max of 297. The only downside is I believe I have low octane because I'm running into a lot of detonation. So I'm gonna back it off. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to keep the 297. So I believe he's not running full 91 on this car. Might be 89 because I'm absolutely getting no timing additional from stock timing. And now that we're running it slightly leaner to get that extra horsepower, it's not liking it. So I'm going to try adding some more fuel, see if we can stay in that 290s with minimizing detonation, or we're gonna have to go back to being rich and see how it likes that based on timing. So right now all that I have to do left is to optimize it, get the most out of it, whether it's with running richer, more timing, or running leaner with less timing. So this next test, I pulled some timing out. Actually no, I left the timing as it was, top end, and I added fuel. So we're gonna see if I can get that top end power back. Low end, I got more by leaning out with less timing, so we're gonna go in that same direction. Put timing back to stock below 3,800 RPM, so hopefully I can keep that good power curve down low. But up top, I'm gonna see if I can get some more by running a slightly richer mixer than I had at this previous pool, but with more timing. So let's check it out. Alright guys, so I'm pretty much all wrapped up. Unfortunately, I do believe we have low octane. I couldn't get a single degree out over stock, so it's costing me power. But we still gained quite a bit. I'm at 288 to average, so that's a good 15 horsepower over what it came in with in certain areas. I'll go show you right now. But yes, unfortunately, due to reliability, we want to be able to get the most power safely. I didn't add any timing, I just leaned it out, and that's what gave me the combination of most power. I did pull all the timing because no matter if I added 1 degree, it would pull it right out with detonation. So I left timing stock and just adjusted fuel to where we saw optimal power, and this is where we're at. Overall, it's still really good gains for just a Kohler intake and tune, and what I assume is 87 octane. So let's take a look. So we didn't lose hardly any horsepower, even with running it slightly hotter. These two right here, really hard to see, they were done back to back. So this one was at 194, and the more dotted one was at 203 on the coolant temp. So it did run a little hotter, richer when it was on the hotter side of the coolant temp, but that's actually good. It helps us keep the engine safe. But power wise, they were pretty much identical, so we shouldn't be losing any horsepower due to coolant temp. Air temp was solid the whole pool. So overall, we did see a total of 315, 304. So that's 11 foot-pounds right there. This area right here we picked up a lot. So we're at 279 and we're at 293 that time. Horsepower wise, we're at 267 and 282. So yes, we picked up over 15 horsepower, which is pretty good. I'm extremely happy with it. Obviously it's gonna come back, it's gonna get exhaust done, but once all that comes back, this car should be making more power because we're gonna relieve some of that pressure. This thing has huge cans as mufflers in the rear, so those are gonna come off. I don't know if he's gonna do headers or not, which will greatly help if he did, but overall this car is pretty impressive. I hardly get to see any 5.7s in this kind of horsepower range. For the most part, they actually no, yeah, you know what, 280 is about right. So this one's 8 horsepower over average what I see on these, but this pretty much sums it up. The AFE is a really good intake. I hardly get to see many tests where a Kohler intake alone gives us this kind of power, and this one did. So once we pair it with good octane, I'm sure we would be a lot closer to 300, because I do have around an extra 2 degrees of timing that I usually run on these older 5.7s, but this one just didn't like it. So this concludes today's video. Once again, thank you for stopping by. Leave a comment, leave a like, tell me what you guys want to see on the next video, and I'll see you next week.